Who are you?
That's obviously a question that as an athlete I get asked quite a bit professionally, but probably not. I'm not asked that question as regularly as a person, and I think obviously when you look back at your career and whether your career is solely in one profession or lots of different areas, you then gravitate to those successes, and whether that's success on the track or in your social life, or those success that breeds from your professional success. I think for me, people look at the Paralympic gold medals and the world titles and the work that I've done with the charities, and I would just say that I don't want to be governed by my success on the track or my disability, but people gravitate to Richard Whitehead because of my core values and my philosophy, and that's the ability to offer, inspire, liberate other people through the power of sport, and always open to new ideas and dynamic enough to be able to listen and offer that conversation. I think I'm a person that's grown as life has gone on. I've gone from a very much shy and relaxed kind of person that would sit back to sports giving me the opportunity to push myself forwards and become a leader in whatever I want to be.
You have 10 gold medals.
I've got a couple, yeah. I'd say I've got quite a few. And when people talk about success, again, you kind of Google or you Wikipedia somebody and you get like a rundown on success, and it always has those materialistic kind of honours, whether it's gold medals at Paralympics, London 2012, Rio, or world titles, or my MBE that I got from Prince Charles in 2012. I think those things are very nice, and a lot of them are great for the family, but for me, I would say I'm not governed by that success. Yes, it gives you a great platform to open those conversations, but for me, I'm successful because I've worked hard and I've been dedicated and disciplined, and I've had people around me that have given me the guidance and the opportunity to be the best that I ever could be.
Can you talk a little bit about your disciplines? They've changed recently, certainly in sprinting. You were T42 and now T61, which I believe means that you can't compete in the 100 at the Paralympics Tokyo 2020. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Paralympic sports are governed by classification, which in certain instances gives the athletes what's meant to be a playing field to compete. The problem is with classification that you isolate athletes instead of liberate athletes with in some cases, and it's not all a fair playing field, in respect that some athletes might have a lot more events than others, and some athletes might have events and then have them taken away. So it can be quite frustrating as an athlete to have to change. I started as a marathon runner and then had to change to 200 metres because I didn't have a long distance event, and then to run in Rio and get the gold in the 200 and the silver in the 100, then to have your event cut. It's obviously quite frustrating, not just for myself, but also the legacy that you leave other athletes.
Yes.
And that's really important, that when you're competing, that you're not just competing for yourself, but you're also competing for the sustained impact that your event has on the next generation of athletes.
This must be hugely psychologically testing. You have to be quite mentally agile to to cope with these situations, presumably. I have a question from an ex-Marine who runs a company called Be Fearsome. His name is Tom Frierson. He trains elite athletes and the general public to be fearsome in life and fearsome in sport. And he was really interested to hear how you cope with that mentally, because you've worked so hard to attain these dreams. Whilst you say your main focus is not on medals, nonetheless, how do you cope with it? How do you deal with it?
I think taking sport out of the equation initially, it's obviously life has lots of challenges and obstacles, physical as well as mentally challenging obstacles. So I think in life there's always people that are worse off than yourself, that are in situations that are very challenging, life-threatening challenges that need support and guidance. Sport is an entity that I use, or a platform that I use to as my workplace, also as a place to, and a platform to hopefully support other people in their journeys in life. And through the experiences and opportunities that I've had, they've built my resume, as you say, in respect that I understand that sport has a place, and mentally those challenges come and go, and it's about how you attack those challenges, how you adapt to the scenarios in your environment, which make you a better person through that learning process. Mm-hmm. So mentally I've had lots of challenges with my impairment and conditioning growing up, also through sport. And we all want society to be open, fair, equal opportunities, level playing field. Unfortunately, within Paralympic sport and with disability sport, that isn't the case. Whether that's the earning respect of Paralympic sport, as in sponsorship, as in winnings through racing, all the opportunities that are there. And we're always continually fighting to have more opportunities. And I always say that when I was growing up, I was never born with a silver spoon, so I've had to earn every opportunity that I've had. But that's made me a better person. And I think mentally, we always need to be building on that. And like when I work physically on the track, I also work mentally as well, in respect having better resilience and better ways of communicating with people to nullify some of those barriers and obstacles that come up in the future.
And during the course of your career and early life, who did you connect with that helped you move forward psychologically, physically, career-wise, in life?
I think it's I've had that question a couple of times, and we also talk about role models and people that we look up to. Firstly, I think I had role models when I was growing up, and then I remember having a conversation with my marathon coach and her husband, Liz and Martin Yelling, and we talked about role models, and he had this imaginary sieve that he put all these people that he admired and had role models, and then he shook that sieve, and all those skills and those good traits about them stuck to the side of that sieve, and then he was picking out those, instead of having people having the actual traits themselves. So like I say, resilience, determination, adaptability, etc. Because sometimes I think with role models, especially in society where social media is so apparent, that you can be let down with individuals, and again that can be quite tough, especially for young people, to have a role model that they're so embedded with, and then all of a sudden that role model lets them down, and then they've got nobody to really turn to. But I remember growing up that I was really close to my gran, who aspirationally just wanted me to be able to drive and get a girlfriend. Also, as I was growing up, I had lots of challenges educationally, so like headmasters and teachers didn't really have the expertise to educate, inspire and support people with disabilities, because there wasn't an inclusion spectrum in the late 70s, early 80s. So I looked to family members like my mum and dad that put me on the right path, especially through sport, and their ideas around discipline, about self-discipline, are things that I still take forward now with my children and even with myself. But I remember conversations with my gymnastics coach, Whack, at Daco Gymnastics Club, that he was more about building solid foundations like balance, agility and coordination, and then utilising them foundations in lots of different areas, so be balanced in life, be balanced in work, etc. And I still utilise that method now, even though I finished working in gymnastics when I was 14, so I was 43 years old. I'm still trying to be more balanced, trying to be dynamic, trying to continually be better every day.
So you've been involved in so many different sports: half marathon, marathon,
gymnastics.
You were a swimming
teacher. Teacher.
I think
sledge hockey.
Your first time at the Olympics. The Paralympics was sledge hockey, wasn't it?
Touring, and I think that then builds your memory bank of stories, emotions, the learning process. And I would say it's very similar to somebody that reads a lot, that reads lots of books. Each chapter of my life has been different in lots of different ways. I've met lots of incredible people that maybe haven't had the recognition that they deserve, as well as people for entertainment and sport. And for me, I'm continually improving as a person, even though that parameter of success maybe in sport has slowly started to not increase like it had been in the past. And that's why I'm happy with where I am within my sport, because I know I've got so much more to offer behind the scenes as well as front of house. And I think you need to always appreciate people for being people, and also look beyond their skill set, because you can always find little gems of knowledge that you can learn from with individuals. And when I have people on my team, my athletics team, I always say, yes, you're a coach or S&C coach or a psychologist, but what I'm looking for is I'm looking for you to bring something slightly different to the table, so that we can be successful together and don't always be governed by time, distance, because that's very subjective.
Can you talk to us a little bit about the qualifying season leading up to the Tokyo 2020 Paralympics? What's in store for you?
It's always busy.
Not just the 200, the other events as well.
Yeah, no, it's always very busy. Depending on obviously how your season goes the year before or 2 years before, you're adapting your program so that on your given day in Tokyo that you're going to be successful. So trying to be very specific. It's like when you go to work on a Monday, you're working to an agenda that has an end goal, whether it's delivering a piece of work by the end of the week or by the end of the month. Where our work is really about starting the cycle 4 years ago and in Tokyo next year being the end result. And that's really hard, obviously, with on one day at one time, and then having the confidence to be able to deliver that plan or that piece of work. And for me, it's about having the confidence and building the confidence through the 4 year cycle, through the people that surround you, but also the experiences you have on the track and off this track. And positive things happen to positive people, so you need to stay positive all the time and hopefully go into the games in the best shape you can. And that can consist of, especially next year, racing all over the world to try and replicate the environment that you'll be racing in Tokyo, or it can be replicating your race strategy that you're going to run. So for instance, like this is a 400 metre track where we are today. The track in Tokyo is 400 metres, so you just replicate race conditions. It's hard to explain to those that have never been an athlete, but when you get to that start line, that's basically your time, your platform. The world's looking at you, and it's a process that you go through. It's not, you don't suddenly like a flower sprout into those flowers that then flourish through the year. You have to build up to that one point. And for me, it's about getting to that start line and being the best you can be. And if things haven't gone right for you, then still going and delivering the best performance you can. Not everybody can win gold medals, but everybody can give their 100%.
And you'll be doing the 200?
Just the 200, yeah, in Tokyo.
Not the marathon?
Yeah, not the marathon, no, I'd love to run a marathon in the Paralympics and maybe in the future, but no, it's a tough ask, especially as you get older, your body, it changes, and the work that you can do physically and mentally as a 43-year-old, you find that you, especially me, I like to challenge myself, but the two variables, when I changed from marathon to 200 metres, there were so many things I had to, up and downs I had to go through. To race both at the moment would be tough. There's not a marathon event available at Tokyo for me, which was one of the reasons I changed initially. But if in the future there ever was, that would definitely be still something that I would be passionate about doing in the future. Because and one of the reasons why I'm passionate about the marathon event is because it's an event that anybody can compete in. So the London Marathon, for instance, or New York Marathon, you can go down to that event and watch and be inspired by those runners that have got charity vests on, or you can see the winners win in 2 hours 5 minutes, and you can yourself walk, run or jog in 6 hours and you get the same medal as you would at the winner, and the same kind of support and guidance is given to the winner as well as those athletes that run 6 or 7 hours, and it's very inspiring. It's a very inspiring event.
You've certainly broken some records in the...
I've done some bits, yeah. So 2 hours 42 for a marathon is a good time, and I still feel I've got a little bit of unfinished business there, and I've already spoke to Liz, who will be supporting me in the future when I go back to marathons after sprinting.
And for Sarcoma UK, you did an incredible charity run.
Yeah.
40 marathons in 40 days.
It's awesome, yeah.
How does somebody do that?
Yeah, it's about the
over 900 miles, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's the mindset of being able to do that, and I met so many incredible people on the way, sarcoma sufferers, youngsters that had lost their limbs due to meningitis or sarcoma, and it also set my mindset in regarding why I'm doing the challenge. And it's not all about the monetary side of support. A lot of it's about the awareness and being able to bring sarcoma and cancer to the front of people's thinking with regarding how they can help. And that's why I continually help not just Sarcoma UK but all of the charities in the Midlands or Nottingham where I'm from, or nationally and internationally. And I've done some great work with MSF in Syria and Jordan with the landmine victims. I was in Beirut and worked with the British ambassador over there, with Hezbollah on some of the landmine victims there. I think that's where my mindset and my my philosophy around what life really means to me has changed because of those environments, putting yourself out into those challenging environments that maybe due to the stigma and the press that we get over in the UK that may be unsafe. But the world's a big place that needs to have positivity, and hopefully I can do that through my platform, which is sport. But I'm obviously a little bit, hopefully I stand for more than just sport.
Can we talk about your legs?
Yeah, talk about whatever you want. Yeah.
Can you tell us about them? The ones that you're wearing at the moment, and the ones that the blades that you use for sprinting.
It's obviously technology that is available now, especially for those of us in the Western world. Has lots of technology in, so the ones that I'm using now has processors in the knees, and they are quite high tech.
Who are they made by?
They're made by Össur.
Oh, I see. It is the same as the actual blades that you use.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I know that they're the suppliers of your blades.
Yeah. So I'm lucky enough that I've been supported by them since I think around 2004. And they've provided me with my running blades as well as my walking prosthetics. There isn't the same kind of support for countries that don't have the provision through national health. So for instance, Africa, South Africa, and some of the Eastern Bloc countries. So a lot of the athletes utilise the platform they have to obviously support those that are less fortunate than myself to not necessarily get the same kind of technology, but get a good platform to be able to walk and provide for their families as well as gain employment, etc.
How do they compare to Otterbook?
I think as much as it's the same as probably Nike and Adidas or Mercedes, and so they're very, very similar. I think obviously with brand ambassadors for certain components, you say that yours is the best, but I think we're just looking for, as individuals as well as athletes, you're looking for a platform for success, and these give me the opportunity to walk, as well as to do my everyday things as well. And also there's loads of different cool things that people do with prosthetics, whether it's climbing, whether it's riding bikes, whether it's somersaults or whatever. And for me, I just use them as just a walking aid.
And how would they differ, let's say, to companies like the product that a company like Hugh Herr's iWalk produces, and he calls them Bionics? Are these legs that you're wearing now considered to be Bionics, or is it a different thing?
I think anything with processors in are going down the route of being bionic, but I think we've still got a long way to go to have the technology around that replicates the human leg and human hands, especially around touch, feel, and obviously the body is a very complex piece of equipment, and I know with some of the technology that's around at the moment, it's starting to get very close, but we're still seeing things like some amazing transplants where people are having just normal hands that are transplanted onto that they've lost their limbs, and they're having transplants from other human beings, so that's really incredible. But also to have the bionics around that for people that come back from Afghanistan and Iraq, or like myself was born without legs, is important to actually know that technology is available and also is improving.
There are companies out there like Exoathlete and Exoskeleton,
where
people who are completely paralysed can step into this thing that enables them to walk.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Do you think that companies like that, technology like that, might change sporting events in the future?
I think well, obviously sport has to evolve, and not just in that respect. I think obviously we're starting to see our sports changing through gender, and I think sport needs to be accessible to everybody. with technology, it needs to be evolving in respect that we want a level playing field and we want everybody to be able to access sport, and that needs to start from grassroots all the way up to performance sport at Paralympics, Olympic level. Obviously athletes with prosthetics have competed at the Olympics before. Oscar Pistorius has and did at 2012, and that gives Paralympic sport and sport for people with disabilities a platform to say that anything is possible. But also it hopefully shows people that if you've got the belief to do anything in life, you can achieve anything. And it's not to say that when I win a gold medal in my sport that you have to replicate what I do. It's just that you see something in my performance that resonates maybe in the challenges that you have to overcome in your own personal life. And a lot of people that reach out to me through social media are in that case that they have challenges in their own life, and they see that what I do or one of my teammates empowers them to be better in their life.
Do you work with scientists to improve your performance?
We have technicians and scientists within like Össur, and we have sports scientists at the University of Loughborough. I'm always looking for performance benefits, but at the end of the day it's all about me putting in the work. But if there's a technical issue in my running that I might be able to improve, there's a lot of data that's behind my training that enables us to have a look and then maybe tweak some areas.
So who's in your team? Presumably a nutritionist?
Yeah, nutritionists.
Sports psychologist?
Yeah, sports psychologists, doctors, coaches, S&C coaches, obviously people like my agent. You've got to incorporate your family in that because they've got a big part to play in your team. Running partners, and then you've got people that you work with the national team as well as here in Loughborough. Or I'm starting to work with some new people at Northampton Rugby. It's all about trying to get people to add value in different ways, and at my stage in my career I still feel I can improve in certain different ways as well to enable me to have the best opportunity in Tokyo.
Out of everybody that you could meet, we've spoken about all the different people pre the interview as well that you have come into contact with. You're an incredibly high profile athlete, as we said, the Usain Bolt of Paralympic sport. Who would you like to meet who you haven't met so far? And what would you like to ask that person?
See, I'm not very. I'm definitely not starstruck. So I go to quite a lot of corporate events. I'm not somebody that likes to generally take selfies with people, or I think for me it'd probably be like maybe people in my past that I just very interested by. For instance, so I was inspired by Terry Fox to run my 40 marathons in 40 days, and he died due to sarcoma when he tried to run from east to west of Canada. So I'd like to meet him and understand why he was doing his run. I know he's doing it for cancer research and raise millions and millions of pounds for that, but understand a little bit more from him personally about some of the challenges that he's had to overcome in that respect. So him, and then maybe just people that don't think the same as me. Like I said before, I like to surround myself one with people that I trust and that are honest with me. So yes, I like to challenge myself by having people around me that have got slightly different ways of thinking and understand how they get to that point of thinking that way. And that might involve different political kind of views or different humanity views. I think it's important to, even if you don't agree with them, give them a platform to get that kind of feeling out, so that people understand that people are all different. And I don't see many people, or many athletes, or many people in the public eye being honest enough to have that conversation. And I'd like to be somebody that then started that conversation with those that want to. And that's probably not answering your question in regarding a person, but it's more about what I would like to be talking about to people that are actually not from the same wavelength as me.
Tokyo 2020 is marked as being will be an incredible Olympics.
Yeah, definitely.
People were really inspired by the way the Japanese people and sports officials and contestants behaved over the time of the Rugby World Cup.
Yeah, definitely.
And I believe their mission statement is sport can change the world, and there are 3 areas that they're asking people to focus on. One is strive for your dream, the other is acceptance of diversity, and the third one is legacy.
Yeah.
What would you like your legacy to be? How would you like to be remembered? In one of our conversations, you mentioned that you were off to pick up your kids on the school run. With them in mind, how would you like to be remembered?
Yeah, I think firstly, like every Olympics and Paralympics is different and has lots of positive and also highlights maybe some of the negatives around the community and the culture of where that Olympics Paralympics taking place. So London, obviously, it was a great games. It definitely highlighted the Paralympic movement and how much that can move forwards and change people's perceptions. And before the Paralympics in 2012, probably no role models on terrestrial TV that had disabilities. You look now, there's quite a few that have impairments that may be hidden, as well as impairments that you can definitely see. So that's definitely positive. With Rio, there was some negatives around where the money was coming from. It was coming obviously from the public purse. But when I got out there, it definitely was. It definitely changed people's perceptions towards disability. And my coach is actually out in Rio at the moment, and he said that the legacy for Rio has definitely been there for people with disabilities and is still transforming their lives. I think Tokyo, again, accessibility is a big issue. I know with accommodation, with the hotels in Tokyo are not very accessible, and hopefully that the games has that transformation. I know that, for instance, hotels only have to have, I think, is it less than 1% of the rooms accessible, so 1 or 2 rooms out of maybe 800 is accessible to people with disabilities just isn't acceptable. So the games will highlight that, but I think the positives from Tokyo will be social mobility, the ability to also utilise technology for everybody. And the reason why the Paralympic movement is so important in that is that the technology that they use in Tokyo will be around accessibility for people with disabilities, but it'd be appropriate for everybody to use, because when you problem solve in technology, you make things a lot easier for everybody. And then going back to your question about legacy, I struggle with this. I struggle with the word inspiration. I struggle with the word legacy, because I think you're always kind of building your legacy in life, and you're always putting your footprint on different situations that can help people and help change people's perceptions in a positive way. So for me, I'd like people to look beyond my sporting career and my disability and see the good work that hopefully I've done and that I'm passionate about, which is obviously the charity work I do, and the vision is more about having equal opportunities for those that have the same mindset and the ability to change people's mindset from maybe something that's maybe mainly negative to then more accepting and positive.
Well, the very best of luck in Tokyo
No,
2020. Richard Whitehead, MBE, thank you so much for your time.
No, cheers,
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Cheers, thanks.